Haha, we are live. Welcome everyone to the weekday show where we at the Libertarian Leadership Academy interview fantastic libertarians running for office wherever they are. And today we are with Jennifer Crayton. She's the Libertarian Party candidate for the Ohio State House District 6. So welcome to the show, Jennifer. It's a pleasure to have you. And
Thank you.
well, thank you for running. I like to start these out. Just thank you for running. We need, obviously, because you were doing it, but we need libertarians everywhere to be running for anything that speaks to their heart. If you're you've got kids, school district, board, like run for that. If you're, an empty nester, maybe some state level or some federal level stuff. But Jennifer's running for the State House in District 6. We're going to talk about policy and what the word is on the street where you're at. What are the neighbors saying? How's your campaign going, Jennifer?
So we're getting ready to do our big reveal this Thursday. We'll have a meet the candidate because I realize they probably don't know me outside of giving interviews to the news when it comes to our local school district. So it's going really well. I'm really excited. The folks that I talk to, the biggest things are that, property tax is killing us. And then, education is huge here in Ohio, depending on where you fall in all of that. Everybody, those are the two things that really speak out. And then obviously, at least in my district where I live, a lot of criminal justice things. We have a lot of folks that are in prison for low-level crimes, where high-ticket crimes, they're not sitting in prison. And then when they get out, they have these charges that they may have done when they were 18 years old that are now still haunting them 30 years later. And it's for a substance that is now legal in our state. So those are the big three that I've heard.
That sounds great. So talking about like the education system and stuff, public schools and whatnot, where do you hope to affect change there? Like, is there a large, charter school or private school situation? I know that in a lot of states that's kind of becoming a thing where conscious parents are able to like take their kids out of public school, and there's an abundance of high quality schools here, at least in Arizona where I'm sitting right now. What are people looking for as far as reform in that area? My mom was a teacher, so I love hearing about people who are trying to affect change in this sector.
Absolutely. And the biggest thing is I'm a parent. I have all together 5 kids. One was homeschooled. He just recently graduated. One is in the public school system and has experience in the charter. And at least here in Columbus, we do have a large charter non-public sector. So that does give parents options. And I, like you, my grandparents were teachers. My great-grandmother was a teacher. So, and public school, I am a product of it, proud graduate of the local school district. But that was back when our hands weren't necessarily tied and we had better leadership in place. Teachers could do a little bit more. So they saw a little girl and they're like, hey, she's going down the wrong path. Let's get her this way. And as a parent, I've obviously taken advantage of those choices. As a parent, you know best how your child is going to learn, and not everybody is one size fits all. I think of public school right now is like the corporate jockeys, the cubicle sitters, and I was built for that. I will not deny that. But someone like, my son, who's 17 and is autistic, homeschooling because I could not get any of the resources that helped him be effective in his learning sphere. So I'm all about choice. I'm good with that. I just think that things like right now, our public schools here in Ohio, we have a requirement that if they're charter non-public in the district boundaries, we have to transport them. They're not funding it. They're not providing the buses. The public schools do. And in a large urban district like ours, where the majority of the people attending public schools come from families that are low income to no income, it puts a big strain on that transportation service, when
Mhm.
we have to actually give priority and precedence to those charter non-public schools compared to the public schools. Currently, Columbus City Schools, they're being fined $17 million a year because we can't meet the metrics. And 17
Ooh,
million for a district that is low income to no income is devastating. So
yeah.
one of the things that I would like to see is, I'm not against having a charter school. I'm not against having a non-public school. What I'm asking for is, let's decouple that. Let's remove that requirement. And
Mhm.
if we had a plan in place a couple of years ago that kind of balanced it out for charter, non-public, and public sectors, because the money followed the child, the individual. So no matter where they went,
Mhm.
whatever was deemed in the budget at the Ohio State Legislature followed that child. Right now, there's an
Mhm.
imbalance because they refuse to follow it, where charter and public students are getting almost twice the amount of our public school students. Now, and I'm not saying
Yeah.
it's all the state's fault. I have criticisms for
Mm.
my district and the board itself. But when I think about like the rural districts, they can't make up for that as easily as me going out and finding a public private partnership to kind of help fill
That's so
those gaps.
mindful. Yeah, that's
Um,
so mindful. I come from both. I spent my childhood in the city, went through a lot of schools there, and then moved to a small town for high school, and kind of had both experiences. You know, going from one semester at a 5A high school, like a division leader in drumline and music, and I was on the fast track for a lot of things that I was into back then. The opportunities changed, you know, moving out to the small town, and I can see how those budget, offsets. Small towns don't have as many options, if any, you know, other than the public school system, and the Robert Maxwell special, as I like to call it. But as uh, as I sit now, uh, that's just so mindful. Like I just wanted to throw you uh, some credit for that. Very mindful, thinking about the rural areas because they really don't have much of anything other than the public school, and they're so underfunded too. So where's the money from this private charter budget? How is that going to reach the rural communities? Like, how can we bridge that gap?
Correct. So I would love to see it go back to more of that fair school funding plan that we had in place.
Hmm.
Unfortunately, Ohio, in their constitution, does mandate that public school needs to be funded. So maybe that's something that we look at removing so that we can provide more innovative choices for funding, because it really does handcuff a lot of different areas, in my
Hmm.
opinion. Because again, I have an urban district. I can go out to the corporations and be like, hey, you know, we need some help here. We need a roof. That 9 times out of 10, they'll come through. Whereas,
Hmm.
somebody out in Carrollton or New Philadelphia, they don't have that kind of same pull.
Hmm.
So it's trying to balance it to where everybody can choose how they want to educate their child, but let's do it in a manner that everybody benefits.
Right. And having an autistic son yourself, needing, you need a variety of options. Like you said, there is no one size fits all. And having 5 kids, there's a different size for all of them. And like I come from a family of 5 myself, so I know what that household is like. And I uh, I know that we're all neurodivergent in our own ways, as the people like to say.
Yep.
I big ADHD growing up. I had the Ritalin and all that in the 90s, but I really needed a specialized school experience myself and struggled
Absolutely.
to find one until like what uh, I did have some good teachers that were able to steer me in a good direction and be inspiring. Always just got a lot of respect for those
Yeah.
types. And it sounds like for you, you're trying to build bridges. You've identified a problem and you're jumping into this space saying, hey, this is the bridge, support me. And you're probably reaching out to a lot of people like yourself. You probably connect with a lot of other moms in the community, especially those with like, children with autism or certain disabilities. Like, I think you're sitting in a really nice spot in terms
I
of
am.
being able to campaign and speak to the hearts of people. So that's
Yeah,
that's what I
the
see.
the one thing that I like about my idea, this was never a plan for me. Okay. This was not
Mhm.
on my bingo card of life. I did not want to jump into politics. I was good putting my faith into other folks. Unfortunately, time and time again, we have been let down here in Ohio. And it's funny because the whole reason I got into it, I've heard a lot of folks, especially in Ohio, either Michelle McCutcheon or Michael Sweeney kind of calm them into it, so to speak. It actually started with my 13-year-old son. He started
Mhm.
speaking up, he started advocating. And I'm like, I can't just keep talking to my husband about it. If I'm
Yeah.
going to be a complainer, I need to bring a solution.
Oh, yeah. That's a great mentality because there are so many people in the political space that only have problems and they don't have solutions. We see it on the news and the think tank talking heads, and I think that a lot of those people they're kind of put into positions of campaigns. As you probably in your district, I'm sure that the Republican that's running has been, kind of selected from a chosen few, and it's a small pond, and his candidates are more manufactured.
Yeah, and it is
Uh,
really big at the city level here, the state level, and even like things like the school board. They have their
mhm,
choices. You can see the feeder pipeline. You know who's campaigning off of the heads of our children. Because when you reach out,
mhm,
you get the canned campaign speech, and I'm like, that's not what I reached out to you for. So yeah,
mhm.
it's breaking that cycle. Because I also feel like it doesn't matter. Like my dad is a true Trump loving MAGA on the far right side as far as he can get. And my mother is a liberal so far left. How they maintain their marriage, I don't know. But we can always find
Good for them.
one thing that we can all agree on, whether it's taxes or
Mhm.
education, but we can find common ground. And I have not seen that effort to find the common ground here in the state of Ohio.
Hmm. Well, that's their problem, and that's your advantage.
Yes.
That is great. So, what was the big thing that pushed you over the edge? Because it seemed like, as you were just saying, you were maybe pressuring someone else to do it, and then you there was something that lit a fire in you that got you over the hump to make the choice to do what you're doing. So, what was that ultimate moment? Was there a singular moment, a singular
There was.
issue of some sort?
Yeah. So what happened is after, going to board meetings and seeing all this stuff and really digging in because I'm a researcher. I will back my stuff up with numbers. So doing all the research and stuff, I'd actually attended the Libertarian Party of Ohio puts on how to run for office training seminars. It's open to anybody. And I just went with the thought of running for school board in a couple of years. Like I said, I was very inspired by what my son was doing because he had no problem going up to a superintendent or a board member, somebody with a fancy title and saying, hey, I need this change. So I
Yeah.
attended his training. I got to talking to some folks that were, already thinking about running. And I'd had a conversation with Michelle. After talking with her, I was like, you know what? Why not now? Why wait? I could do that quote unquote feeder pipeline, and that's not really what I was looking for. Why not now? Let's seize the moment. Ohioans are tired. They're ready for a change. They want to be heard. And I think that I am capable of doing that. I don't want to play dirty politics. I don't want to, I was blown away, even hearing about the salary. And I told my husband, I was like, half of that's going to go back into the community. We don't need that much. you know, so it, it,
Yeah.
it, it felt, it felt right. And so it was that moment seeing that we can't waste any more time. We can't wait.
No, that's exceptional. That's something that I've always loved about libertarians is, hearing that why, hearing about that moment, because kind of cut from a different cloth, than the general public. Like we're not wrapped up in the rat race so much, the red versus blue, like with the binary thinking. Like we kind of understand that there's at least a third choice, and it's uh, it's good to help people understand that like Republicans don't have a monopoly on patriotism. Like Republicans don't have a monopoly on that. Like Democrats don't have a monopoly on the things that they've been more known for, with like the identity politics and individualism. And um, like we know that it's a uniparty, but in the message with just speaking to the neighbors, like the general people on the street, there's a lot of fatigue with the two-party deal, and there's a lot of people that are just looking for something new and something to attach themselves to. So I feel like you're probably going to run into some really, really great volunteers. Do you have
I believe.
like who do you have around you right now in terms of support?
So I voluntold my husband to be my campaign manager because
Yeah.
I didn't know how to handle all that, and he's pretty logistical. I
Mhm.
have a really good friend of mine. She's actually the family ambassador to my son's school. So she's like the bridge between admin, staff, and the parents. And I became head of
Mhm.
her parent involvement committee. And she's really good about outreach. Like she, last minute, if we needed a pizza donation for something, last minute, she has got it. She has always come through. So she's kind of been helping me engage the community, find out what is important to them and how we can, hear, because that's what I want to bring to this is that, we all come from different backgrounds. We all have different experiences, but we can find that one thing that unites us. And I
Mhm.
miss that about us because the one thing I do love and appreciate about the city of Columbus is that when crisis happens, and excuse my language, when shit hits the fan, we can come together. But why do we only do that when it's a crisis? We can do that
Yeah.
all the time. And
You can
so
do it
I've
with the
had
good
her,
times.
yeah. And then, I call my mom and my dad because again, they're the opposites. So they give me, different points of feedback, different, and I can take that and utilize that as well. So that because again, for me, it's about bridging. I want to bridge.
Mhm. Yeah. And like the more conversations you have with people, the more opportunities unlock to plug people into positions that would suit everybody, Some like you bring some energy to them, they bring some energy to you, and you're like, great, let's harness that. Be it through a donation, through volunteer hours, whatever. And you never know what people those that person knows. If somebody is on your campaign, all of a sudden you get some new firebrand volunteer. um, People tend to know people and things can grow fast in a grassroots situation. I know that I've seen it uh, countless times, and even with successful races, especially those. um, I can think of a bunch, but
Yeah.
the names, I don't want to just start throwing them out. This is your interview. So exciting. In Arizona right now, I don't know if there might be a trend here, but in Arizona, there's a lot of heat for the ALA funding. There's a lot of like audits going on, and they're like, there's all this fraud, and the state government is looking to freeze the ALA funds, which are what go to helping parents with children that have autism and disabilities along those lines. And that's been really hot in the media. I've noticed just in the last week. I'm like, who put out the alarm for this propaganda situation? And everybody's reporting on it, and it makes me really sad because I can tell that they're just looking to make cuts, and they're seeing that as an easy out. But is there anything going on in Ohio in terms of like the funding for situations like that? You mentioned there's the funding for the types of schools, but I hope that your guys' grants and stuff are okay.
So for us, mostly it's been pre-K and daycare. Being in proximity to Minnesota and what was found there, that's been like the big. There's a whole bunch of fraud in daycare. When it comes to our special needs children, a lot of it comes down to the IDEA. So with our funding, what happens is it's being taken away from the public school sector. And we've seen less and less on that basis of there's fraud, there's this. And it's like, well, show me where it's at. And when you ask for the proof, when you go do a FOIA request, because again, I am no shrinking violet when it comes to those FOIA requests. I'm like,
show me the money,
data.
show me the proof. Yeah.
It's just not there. And unfortunately, as somebody, like I said, my son has autism. First of all, we're not educating our parents as to what they can even ask for to help their children. So they just assume what's good. And then we do run into this, and this is where I'll take my criticism to the district. We run into, I know better than you. You don't need this, but I'm still going to get those grants. I'm still going to get that money, but your child's not going to see it. And that upsets me. And that's one of the reasons why I ended up homeschooling my son, because I had an administrator, and unfortunately this was in Texas, but in Texas, I had an administrator who told me she's been doing it for 20 some odd years. And she's seen kids like Jack. And I'm like, you don't know Jack. And that's what I said to her. And I added,
you don't know Jack.
And I walked out the door. So
figuratively and literally, you don't know Jack.
Yeah. So, and we won it through trial and error, through a lot of tears. And that's something that I would like to see. If parents chose to homeschool their children, they should get those grants. They should get that funding, because it is not easy. Trying to figure it out, trial and error, books, whether computer systems, whether it be, so that money should also go to the homeschool parents. So when I talk about spreading the money out, I do want to include them as well. They should have a bit of it as well.
Wonderful. Yeah, and some of these articles, in one of the headlines, they said Bluey books, like they were like iPads, laptops, and Bluey books. I'm like, y'all are coming after the Bluey books? Like, those are educational materials. Like, just because it's a Bluey brand, I'm sure that the kid on the other side of that's learning, it's probably some sort of math book, or like, come on, media. Like, oh man, the lamestream media out here, they're throwing Bluey under the bus. I hate to see it.
Right. And my grandson would have a conniption fit if you told him that we had to get rid of Bluey. He is a big Bluey fan right now. So
yeah, my girlfriend's kids are super into it, and I love Bluey myself. But in Arizona, they are looking to try to upend that. And hearing about what's been going on in Ohio, where when the data is actually like looked at, it doesn't quite add up. That's reassuring. So I hope that the kids here can keep their funding, and I hope that you are able to effectuate some of this change, and like locking everything in with the guardrails, and making sure that these pipelines are it's like infrastructure. You want to go in, it's just you're diverting money. You're building stronger systems around each pipeline that goes off, and just like a civil engineer or something.
And it's interesting that you say that, because one of the things that I read, because I don't work, I do not work. My time is here at home. Thousands of Facebook comments and other comments on news articles and things like that, where there is a misunderstanding in Ohio as to, we have the Ohio lottery, we have the casino sales tax, we have the marijuana sales tax. And they're like, where's all this extra money that was supposed to be being inserted into our, public school
Yeah.
systems, our funding for education. And what they don't understand is that the Ohio legislature did a 1-for-1. So for every $10 that the casino or the lottery or marijuana sales brought in, the Ohio legislature reduced their portion. So it was an even gain. We did not get what we thought we were getting. So it is
Oh
1
my
to 1.
God.
And it is the biggest thing that I wish I could get out there. I want to scream it from the top of the thing. I was like, they gamed us. They gamed us. But we
Oh
can
my
find
God.
money for professional sports. We're building a stadium for the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah.
Huge Browns fan. Huge Browns fan. But I'm never going to afford a ticket. They're
Yeah, it's
making
like
the
the
money,
Browns aren't a
and
civil,
we
they're
provide
not
the
an
money.
aspect of the civil thing. Like, why are we building all these? Yeah, yeah. I'm
Yeah,
aware of all the money that gets diverted to things like that. And they're just looking to save in all the wrong places, in my opinion.
correct.
Like, if the damn NFL was actually a profit corporation and they are registered as a nonprofit for some crazy reason,
I don't know how.
they'd have to pay for it themselves. And
Yep.
uh but it sounds
You
like
know,
you know where to make the cuts, or at least you're on the right track.
I do. And again, that's not to say that the districts aren't mismanaging their money, because I've dug into them, and to the point that when I filed my FOIA request for additional data, they knew what I was doing because I was then presenting it. I was then
Mhm.
educating those around me and saying, "Hey, by the way, this doesn't smell right." So
Yeah.
it's a two-way
There's
street.
sloppy,
And I
and then
think
there's sloppy, and then there's systemic, and you
correct.
know how to work out both.
Yes.
Sniff it out. Yeah. I
Because
didn't
like
mean
I
to
said,
cut
I'm
you
not going to
off.
complain without having a solution.
Mhm. Well, I love that mindset and your mindfulness. Um, is there anything that you wanted to go over that we haven't touched on yet, as we are rounding off like the last 3 minutes or so of this interview? Like, it's yours, and we're going to take it and we're going to clip it and uh, you know provide you with a lot of media. Is there anything that you want to go riff with right now? Anything that's like sound bites, any policy? This is a good time to get some of those in. Um, Anything that you'd like to say and have posted, you know, anything that we've missed.
Yeah. So again, the reason that I'm running for Ohio House District 6 as a libertarian candidate is because I think that it's time for Ohioans to have a choice. It's time for them to have a voice, and it's time for us to get back to that sane-minded. Let's root this all out, but let's work together. I'm over the duopoly. Let's figure it out. We need common sense working people in these
For
positions.
sure. And nope, this is a phrase that stuck in my head a few days ago. There's a YouTuber that I was following that said it. Um, I won't say who it was because he's a little controversial, but nobody has a monopoly on patriotism, and nobody has a monopoly on doing good, being good people. You know, we are all cut from a unique cloth, and I think that a big tent libertarian party and this mentality that you're not there to be the smartest person in the room, and there's a lot of that in the libertarian party that I see, and I can tell that you're a bridge builder, and being a stay-at-home mom, you're plugged into the community in a way that is going to do great. So anyway,
I
it's
love
been a
my country.
pleasure.
I don't love who's running it. We,
Amen.
I go back to it. I will follow the Constitution to a T. That is my guiding force, and we forgot that somewhere
Hmm.
along the way in certain circles.
In certain circles, for sure. And another thing on the line of like libertarians being like, we're phenomenal nerds. We can agree on that. Like, we're all nerds. There's a mutual respect. We're red. We can at least assume that if somebody's talking about the free market, being from a libertarian background, they probably read Mises and Rothbard and all that. They might have opinions that differ, but man, like the general public, they don't really need the super nerd. They need somebody who can just touch their hearts and minds, and they will support people who they know, like, and trust. And that comes from just being an authentic person, not some robot that's been cut and produced from the Libertarian Party or the Republican Party or whoever they're running incumbent, you know. But this was a pleasure.
I'd rather be authentic than a whole lot, but yeah.
Amen. All the way. Ruthless authenticity. So
Yes.
thank you everybody for joining us for the live stream here with Jennifer Crayton in Ohio. She's running for State House District 6, and I hope that if you're there, you'll give her not just support, but y'all throw her some donations. Like, the campaigns take money, and libertarians, we need to be running ads. We need to be doing some marketing. A lot of that isn't cheap. So support Jennifer Crayton for State House District 6. And it's been great. We'll see you guys tomorrow.
Thank you.
Thank you. So now we are off the stage, I believe.